All right. Thank you for joining me. I'm Brian Banks, founder of Your Career Day. Can you give us your name?
Yes, sir. Michael Buck.
All right, Michael, where is your hometown?
Yes, sir. Detroit, Michigan.
All right. What is your career title?
Yes, sir. Currently, I work as a medical death investigator.
Okay. And what does that entail?
Well, it entails us being the eyes and the ears of the chief medical examiner that we work for.
Hmm.
So, anytime if there's a death that has to be reported within Fulton County, I'm also located in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
But anytime that there's a death that's reported to Fulton County, by law, it has to be documented.
Hmm.
So as investigators, we usually work two on a team for each shift, and we're dispatched out to that incident address to where that loved one was unfortunately found down and unresponsive and deceased. When we arrive to the scene, there's a lot of documentation, a lot of documenting that we have to do in terms of
Hmm.
notating the time that you get there. I mean, every step of the way. We collect a lot of forensic evidence for the pathologist and the medical examiner.
Hmm.
We take scene photos and we take lots of photos in terms of doing our assessment of the body, which we do have to do in private. Usually, one law enforcement officer will be present when we're doing that. So, just collecting a lot of their medical history, any prescription medications, naming their doctors,
Right.
collecting information with interviewing family members in terms of engaging their medical history if they have any previous injuries or any
Hmm.
hospitalization. So we gather a lot of information for them to make their assessment easier whenever we have to bring a loved one in. But also we do have an option. If it appears to be a natural cause or natural death, we can
Hmm.
release that individual to a funeral home of the family's choice.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah, that's a kind of in the scheme of things. Usually when I come back to the office, I just had to have my report prepared for the medical examiner for the previous day when they stat the case and kind of get an idea where they're at with everything.
Okay. All right. Great. So, what type of education is required?
Yes, sir. Usually, for this posting, when I applied, they mentioned criminal justice, law enforcement
Hmm.
experience. That isn't always necessarily the case. I know one of my teammates that I work with, she has extensive private investigation experience.
Okay.
So one of the things that is required, but not mandatory, is a 4-year college degree.
Hmm.
If not, if you have experience working as a private investigator, in which
Hmm.
a college degree is not preferred for, in addition to experience with working at a funeral home, which I did
Hmm.
part time, that kind of gives you the exposure and gives you an understanding of the medical examiner's role in conjunction with the funeral home in terms of how they work with one another.
Okay. Great. Now, what was your road to your current position? How did you get here?
Man, I'll be honest with you, I never saw it coming.
Yeah.
Like I said, when I went to college at Fair State, I knew I wanted to work in law enforcement and I wanted to
Hmm.
work for the federal government. But things happen, things change.
Hmm.
It took a while for me to get to where I'm at. Like I said, out of college, I did work as a probation officer primarily. That's
Hmm.
where most of my experience came from. I worked in juvenile probation in Georgia. At one point when I was in Atlanta, I worked at Fulton County Drug Court.
Yeah.
But like I said, between Michigan, there was at one point in Michigan I had came back in 2014. I worked as an adult probation officer. Then I came back down to Atlanta and got situated and everything. And I worked as a juvenile probation officer for seven years.
Okay.
So ironically, my current job is, is across the street from my other job, my old job. So it was like a lateral transfer.
Yeah.
Like I said, I interviewed the first time, I didn't get it. I had applied for a while and they never called me for an interview, but not until I had that experience working with the funeral home
Yeah. Okay.
is when they reached out. So, things opened up and worked in my favor.
Yeah.
And they were able to bring me on board. And, I'm definitely in a good place.
Okay. So, how did you know this was a career for you?
Well, for me, I'm a person, I'm a very caring, nurturing,
Hmm.
I'm just like a gentle giant, man. So,
Yeah.
one of the things that I love about my job is, and that I realized for myself is, I love giving families that closure and clarity in
Hmm.
terms of when you come to those scenes, it's a lot of pressure on us as investigators because you have law enforcement officers and families that need to know right then and there, like what was the cause of death.
Hmm.
So it can be you can be under pressure, but I'll say one specific instance that kind of opened my eyes, and I said, okay, I know I'm where I belong was probably
Yeah.
about a month and a half ago.
Mhm.
I received a postcard from a decedent's sister, and just to make a long story short, the sister wrote a postcard to me personally, hand wrote it and everything, and said that
Yeah.
she had been out of the country in Europe for 18 days. She said, "You found my brother down and unresponsive while I wasn't here," and
Mhm.
she thanked me for the extra measures and steps that I took to make sure that he was properly cared for and
Yeah.
watched over until she was able to return back to the country. So, I mean, like little things like that, go a long way with me for
Yeah.
someone to take their personal time to write a letter and show their gratitude to you,
Yeah.
and respecting what you do. So that's probably when it really hit home. Like I said, I've been doing this since February, and I don't have any regrets. And I
Yeah.
got that postcard in probably sometime in mid-August. And like I
Okay.
said, ever since then, yeah, that was my confirmation.
Wow. That's pretty good.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So, what advice would you give to someone that might want to follow in your footsteps?
Well, tell them not to be discouraged, because a lot of people, the first thing that comes to mind, they think about is the things that you have to see and
Mhm.
smell. If, for me, you have to be really, I would say, you have to be very, very mentally tough and have
Mhm.
that balance, not to overextend yourself to families. You got to have the perfect balance because sometimes
Yeah.
you go out to these scenes, you have family members that, they want to embrace. They need,
Mhm.
they need a hug. They need some type of
Right.
affection. So, like little things like that, you have to be very down to earth, very understanding, and
Mhm.
open to that, and being mindful of that. But I say for a person that's all about trying to provide clarity and closure for people, for love families. And one of the most challenging parts I would say for this job that people have to be mindful of is when you're trying to locate a family member, especially someone that's been estranged and no
Mhm.
one has had any contact with them. That's the most challenging part. So, for someone, if you really got a love for, doing your research,
Mhm.
trying to interview people and find answers and solutions for these families that you deal with, I would say that this is a place for you. Also, if you're able to, balance your post personal emotions,
Mhm.
compared to, working on the job, being able to balance that inside and outside, to and from work on both sides. If you're able to do that and still able to conduct yourself as a professional, I think anybody, be honest with you, almost anybody can do this job.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of people that get just discouraged by the things that they may see or smell.
Yeah.
But when you don't take it personal and you know that what your going objective is, what your expectations are when you go to these scenes, like I said, it's nothing or anybody that can stand in your way. It's not as challenging as hard as people think to get
Yeah.
into this kind of field, to do this type of work. If you do have some forensic background too, that also helps too.
Okay.
So even if you have an associate's degree, but
Mhm.
if you have a strong forensic background, that helps. I
Okay.
wasn't always the best in college in the area of math, science, biology, and chemistry, but
Mhm.
my experience kind of helped, align me with this position and me being able
Right.
to use my intangibles. So,
Okay.
um, yeah, that would be my advice. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. I really appreciate your time and wish you continued success in the future.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you too. Hey, anything else you need, Brian, let me know. But I appreciate you putting your personal time aside.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.